All right, looks like I am live. Let me just double check and make sure I can see myself on here real quick. I gotta just check. Where am I at? Hopefully I'm on here and there we go. Looks like I'm good. Excellent. All right, first and foremost. So first off, thank you so much for jumping on here. My name is Mike Healy. I am going to be giving you a training today. We are going to cover how to tell your compelling story. Now, what does that mean? Most of us, or a lot of the people that follow me on my pages, or my YouTube channel, my Facebook pages, whatever it might be, my podcast, has to do with marketing because I've been doing networking, direct selling for many years, which is a people business. Okay, first and foremost, it's a people business, and most people don't know some of these key tips. So I'm going to give you a pro tip on how to tell your compelling story. So you're going to want to have notes. If you're watching a replay on this or watching this on YouTube, if I load it up on YouTube, make sure you push pause, take screenshots, or just write down things as I go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right into it, and we are going to get started. So I see some people jumping on here. I didn't tell anybody I was doing this. I gotta show something else real quick. I'm gonna go do, that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna go do dual screen on you. So let me just double check that I did this right on Facebook. I'm gonna be looking over here to my left, which is where yeah, there we go. I got it on here. I think I did have it correctly the first time. So should be good. So here's the title of this. This is a pro tip. It's how to tell your compelling story, because one of the things when it comes to marketing is when you can tell your story emotionally through a story journey, that's when people connect with it. Why do we go to the movies? Why do certain commercials move you, have emotion, things like that? Because a big tip that you might not know is people don't join based on logic. They join based on emotion, and they justify their decision logically later. Literally, the best marketers out there and the people that do things the best figure out ways to communicate with somebody emotionally where they're at. Okay. Now you can use this in a bad manipulative way. So don't do that. That's a no. But you want to be able to use this in a way that people can actually get something out of it. And telling your story with emotion in a strategic way, which I'm about to go through this PowerPoint with you. Shouldn't take too long, but how I'm going to show you this will give you a blueprint. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with this. This is going to be the blueprint. So this is our outline. You're going to take notes as I go through each one. So I'm going to go through each bullet point we're going to cover. We're going to cover the backstory, the desire, external, internal, wall, epiphany, plan, conflict, achievement, transformation. Oh, let me go back. One more. Sorry. Pushed one too many buttons. And I think I did it again. So my bad. It's the last 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So take a screenshot of this or write these down. I'll leave them up here for a second. I apologize. So you got your backstory, your desire, your internal. Now, these are just bullet points in your story. If you were to tell somebody this, and if you put these things in the proper order, and then how you do it is you write it, right? You're going to write all these things down later on. This is going to be a lesson for you. You're going to write all these things down. And then what's going to happen is you're going to be able to read your story, and it will be something that you'll be able to repeat back to people multiple times. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this first off. So let's start with the backstory. The backstory is, what is your backstory that gives a vested interest in your journey? So when you're talking to somebody, most of the time is you have to be able to connect with your prospect immediately on something. Most people have things in common that we've all been through. Like a backstory is, just to let you know, a few years back, I was so broke I couldn't pay attention. I was working as a personal trainer. I was in the bar business at one point. As an alcoholic, as a bouncer, whatever it might be. Those are actually all mine, by the way. That gives you a backstory of where somebody was, where you were before. Okay. And then what happens is you then move that into the next thing, which is the desire. What did you want to accomplish? So when I was in the bar business, I had, I was in the bar business, and then I was introduced to direct selling, network marketing. And I remember what had happened to me was I started meeting some people that had a future or were being able to control their lives more than I had. So what my desire was, what I wanted to accomplish being able to call my own shots, wake up when I was done sleeping as opposed to, when an alarm clock came off. Okay. So that was kind of how I do it. So if I was to put those things together, this would be how I would frame that one. All right. So next thing, external. What external struggle were you dealing with? Now, externally could be, well, first off, I didn't have any business background whatsoever. I didn't go to college. I barely graduated high school. Probably if both my parents weren't teachers at that school, I'd probably still be there. Okay, I know they pushed me through the system, but internally I knew I wanted something, but externally I had nothing going for me that would say this is somebody that's going to be successful. This is somebody that can start a business. Okay. So internal, I kind of covered that. Internally, what internal struggle you were dealing with? The biggest internal struggle that I had myself was the fact that I didn't have confidence in what I thought it took to succeed based on what some predetermined things were or people that I'd known from out these years. And this was me going into my mid to late 20s, that when I was introduced to this and still coming out of the bar business, right? So internally, I had confidence issues that I wasn't necessarily confident, but I was confident in some of the other things that I did. But when it came to business, I didn't internally have the confidence. Okay. So if you think about this, and let's pause for a second, is if you think about if you're telling somebody this story like this, you're going to be telling this story, and more than likely, like 99.9% of the time, people are going to be able to relate to where you were or where you were at that time before they get to that. Okay. So what wall or problem? So next point, what wall or problem did I hit? What did you hit within your current opportunity that's to start you on your new journey? Okay. So what I did was I had actually, and this is kind of to move up in my story, what I've told people recently over the last few years was I had tried networking. I'd been in the bar business for a long time, and I knew I wanted out of it. I mean, I pretty much, had a drinking problem and a fighting problem, and I had a girlfriend, which is now going to be my wife, and probably shouldn't be doing all those things if I was going to move forward. I knew she wanted to have kids. I was still on the fence about it at the time. And so that was my biggest issue. The problem I had, though, was the fact that I didn't have the confidence, like I said, internally to think that I could do it, let alone having anything in the past that made it believable that I could do business. I tried networking for about 10 years and I did okay, but then I got really disgruntled, disappointed, and I basically quit. I'd said after 10 years, I was never going to do it again. And I'd gotten my first job I had in 10 years as a personal trainer. Okay. So the problem I had was that I had sworn off of it. I'd sworn off of networking. I said, you guys can stick it. Don't ever pitch me another thing or anything like that. And that's where I stood. The problem I had was where I worked, the job I'd gotten as a personal trainer was at a country club. And the problem I had was all of my clients, most of them were, $500,000 to $1 million annual earners or owned their own businesses. And so what was fun was the fact that I had training and people skills from 10 years of networking and obviously in the bar business and so on, that now when I was training these people, all I did was ask them questions. So I'd be like, well, how'd you get your business started and stuff like that. So what happened was it drew out of me that I was getting this knowledge from all these people. Okay. So what happened is it accidentally rekindled the dream that I'd had previously of being able to work for myself again and own my own business and things like that. So the wall was there. Okay. The wall was I quit. And then I was looking at something that was just kind of like, I don't know if I can handle this anymore. Okay. So the epiphany was that the epiphany I had was the fact that I could probably still make it, because the one thing that they all had in common, as I worked with these clients for weeks, sometimes, months at a time, every other day or whatever, when they came in and trained, was every one of their stories had a similar kind of, what would you call, I can't think of the word right now. They had a similar thing to them, right? They just basically were a similar thing in the fact that they all had they'd started from pretty much nothing, and then they had some success, and then they had issues happen, and then some of them thought they were going to lose their businesses, and things turned around. And they were incredible stories of these people, and these were people I was looking at face to face, and I was thinking about this, but at the same time, because I was internally struggling with what had happened in the past, I was having a very tough time justifying why I would even look at something else, which was kind of crazy. All right. So what had happened with me was, then at that point, 10 years in, I had this little fire, that little, the once was a fire of, what I could do with my life and be a business guy and be a networker, that kind of thing, had dwindled down to basically a spark sitting out in the yard by itself. And these people I talked to kind of just did a little blow on it, and it would take a little glow and so on. And then I think what happened with me was I ended up going to a big event. And I know everybody pitches you on big events and networking and stuff like that, but there's a reason for them. And it's not just the dog and pony show event type things. It was when you go to an event, a big event, a lot of times you actually get to see people and social proof of success. Okay. Like, you have to see that in front of somebody. Like, what is it that you could achieve, or what did you internally want to achieve? And you see these people up on stage, and most of the people that I've seen over the years weren't any, super, geniuses. They didn't have really big backgrounds. A lot of them had really terrible pasts, terrible histories, weren't super educated and stuff, but they'd stayed the course. They created it. So what had happened to me was, went to a big event, barely made it there. I had the people that invited me there bought my plane ticket. They hooked me up with a roommate. I stayed there. I was only eating one meal a day, basically, at the Chinese buffet at this event. And I remember sitting in the back row with, like, my arms crossed like this, like, these people are nuts. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. These people are stupid. This can't work. Well, about the second day, they started walking all these people across stage. And all of a sudden, that little tiny little spark just went like this and kind of puffed into a little fire. And I went back to my room by myself, and I sat down there, and I kind of just prayed about it. And I'm like, God, I quit a couple times, and I know you said you never give me anything harder than I can handle, but this is getting kind of ridiculous. And I just thought to myself, I was like, well, what if it worked? What if I did push and it worked? And I went there. So I actually sat there, and I made a plan at that point to go after something, to do something different, to go for it one more time. And that was kind of my breakthrough moment. So sometimes you got to reach the bottom to figure out what you don't want a lot of times, and say, you know what, I remember dreaming. And then you lose your dreams, and you justify stuff because you might be thinking you're holding on to security or hanging on to security. And I said, screw that. I'm going to go for it one more time. And literally did 7 figures in that thing. So it was kind of cool. So what I did was I created a plan to achieve that. All right. So that was kind of the thing. Now, along the way, so here's me telling you my story and relating it to how you would interject this into your own story, is I did understand that it was going to be an experience. It wasn't going to be something that was going to be easy. It wasn't something that was going to just be handed to me. I mean, there were plenty of people that said, oh, Mike, what are you into now? Okay, well, I don't care what you think, because you ain't paying my bills. I got to go out there and do what I think is the best route for me and my family and the skill sets that I've developed. And networking has just kind of seemed to pop. I mean, it's just been something that's been an amazing blessing to myself and my family. I mean, not only has it helped provide for me and my family, but we've been able to go above and beyond that and, buy things for people and donate to churches and donate to causes and help families and stuff like that. And it wouldn't have been because of that. Have there been some ups and downs? Yeah, absolutely. But, I remember my top number one, first guy I ever really resonated with me was Paul Orbison, was number one money earner in Excel, very first company I ever did. He was said, he was talking to somebody said, well, I ain't having any fun. And Paul always would say, well, you ain't having fun every day anyhow, so get over it. And I was like, hey, that kind of makes sense. I might as well just keep going on that type of thing. So achievement, what was the end result you achieved? So here was the thing. So going through that whole story, as you guys can see how I'm breaking this down, is what happened was I remember being at that event, right? The event that I was just telling you about that I went to, and I was sitting there in the room with crossed arms, sitting in the back corner by by myself, because Stacy didn't go with me, my wife, and just wondering if it was going to be something that was just a dog and pony show, or if I was going to really go after it. And believe it or not, a year later, I walked across stage, and not only did I walk across the stage, but one of the owners of the company basically did a little slideshow and pulled our story out there as something amazing. And it was really, that was an emotional experience for me, because I looked at it, because you got to remember, this was before I was a morning guy. I was getting up at 3:45 in the morning to get to the gym and open it up at 4:30. And again, I wasn't a morning guy at this time. I mean, I usually would sleep till 10 or 11. And I remember going outside, I'd get in the car and I'd look back at my house, and I had 3 little kids at the time. Like, they were little. And, I think my daughter might've been maybe, she was probably 8 or 9 years old at the time. So you had 8 or 9, and you had like 7 or 8 and like 3 or 4. I can't remember anyhow, but I remember looking back and thinking to myself, they're all safe. They're all, they're all in the house. They're all sleeping, and Dad's going to go work, and I'm probably going to pull in, $1,000, maybe $2,000 this month, and it's going to cover our bills. We're going to have just enough, and I can do this. And I literally had justified that was going to be my existence at that point, because I had given up on the big dream. Right. Okay. However, after, like I said, the compelling things happen, the desire got, kicked back in, the flame got fanned again, and went after it. It just kind of opened up. The world opened up because of it. Okay. So the end result was the things I had dreamt about: the freedom, the time, I mean, buying the cars that you want to buy, that kind of thing, and so on. So it's been amazing. And that leads me into the last part: transformation. What transformation did you experience? At that point, it was literally like my whole world changed, because then people knew who I was. And not that I was looking for, I'm not out there because I want people to know who I am. I could really care less. I'm more of an introvert, believe it or not. I don't have a problem just staying at my house all the time and just chilling. But it was kind of cool that, people came up and wanted to hear my story and ask me how I did things. And I've always been a giver, which has been cool. That's why I like to do trainings and stuff like that. Is it just feels like I can give to people and encourage people and so on. Because everybody's got to hear somebody that maybe they can resonate with, not resonate, that's not the word, relate to, that they can actually feel about. That story will be something that they can take and use. Okay. And it's never too late. Understand that it's never too late. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do here is, we're finished basically, is I'm going to pull this up, and you're going to take a screenshot of it, or whatever you got to do this. Let me see. All right, there we go. Is the blueprint here is this: is you've got your backstory, your desire, the external problems you went through, the internal problems you dealt with, what wall stopped you when you decided to make your decision. Then you had your epiphany of what you were going to do. You were going to either retreat, or you were going to move forward. And by making that decision in the epiphany part, you've made your plan, understanding that your plan doesn't happen unless you're going to have conflict. And then you can achieve, then you start to get those achievements, and you create your transformation. If you think about this, if you learn how to give a story, tell a story like this, like, I know I was all over the place with mine, but you understood it, because I was trying to give you the story as I was trying to give you the headlines. But this is how you do it. If you took the time to think about these points on a piece of paper, you write your story down, and you read it over and over again, regardless of what you're doing in business or in life, if it has to do with communicating with people to get somebody to listen or get somebody to look at something, you can use this blueprint right here to have an emotional attack, get somebody emotionally. It gives that. What happens with this is when you can get someone to have an experience with anything you're in, what happens then is it becomes something, especially an emotional experience, whether it's internal or, in their minds, you lock them in, and that's what happens. Okay. So if you think about that, these are the things right here that you can jump all over and you'll be good to go. Okay. So let me go solo off on you. I don't know what time I jumped on here, but hopefully you got something out of that. I went through that pretty quick. I got some handful of people on here that maybe said some stuff. I'm going to pull you up, James. I'm going to put you on the screen. Thanks, James. Says James Pilgrim loves hearing your story. You know what's cool about James? James is in another networking company. We've never worked together or anything like that. He started giving me a buzz, calling me about stuff, asking me questions, saw some of my stuff. We just kind of communicated over all these years, and he's now one of the top earners in his company, which is amazing. And it wasn't that I just maybe gave him a couple tips here and there, but obviously he went out and applied them and learned from a lot of other people. So thank you. Love that. Appreciate that. Lori, thank you so much for popping on here and saying hello. We got that. I appreciate that. Who else I got on here? Kimberly. Excellent. We got Kimberly on here. If you want to put a comment below or anything like that, I'd love to post you up here. Chuck, thank you, Chuck. I'm going to pop you on here. Appreciate it. Chuck in the house. Excellent. But go back and watch this maybe a couple times. Make some comments below, tag some people in it below, share it. If you're watching, because I'm going to pull this off my YouTube channel and put it on YouTube, or pull it off my Facebook channel, put it on YouTube, so people can have it there if you want that. But really appreciate it. Doris. Okay, Doris, after I get off, after we're done, which is going to be any minute now, you're going to want to watch the replay because I covered some really, really good stuff on here. So we're going to do that. And I think I had Kimberly, I know you made a comment, and I was going to say hi to you since you put that on there. But anyhow, maybe next time I'll give everybody a notice that I was going to be on here live. But thanks for jumping on here last minute. Hopefully I made it worth your while. I appreciate you being on here. So I'll tell you this. If you'll do today what others won't, you can live tomorrow like others can't. I am just about out. I'm going to say thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Mark Conley out of Vegas. I know where Mark lives. Great info. Thank you so much. All right. So everybody have a good one, and we will see you on the other side, and go get there to the top because there's plenty of room. And Lan, yes, you can call me. All right. Everybody have a good one, and I will see you later.